Shalom. I'm Rabbi Josh Caruso from Anshe Chesed, Fairmount Temple. It is my honor to be here in a place we all don't want to be in this moment, but we certainly grieve and want to pay tribute to an extraordinary woman. In the words of Ecclesiastes, a season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for birthing and a time for dying, a time for speaking and a time for silence, a time for seeking and a time for losing. The time of mourning is a complicated time filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. We begin our service with the recitation of psalms and readings, thus linking Sandy's life with the 3,000-year-old tradition of the people Israel and the eternity of God. I invite you to join with me now in the recitation of Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. God leadeth me beside the still waters. God restoreth my soul. God guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Eshet Chayil miyimsa, what a precious find is an Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. Her worth is far beyond rubies. Her husband puts his confidence in her and lacks no good thing. She is good to him, never bad, all the days of her life. She opens her hand to the needy and extends it to the poor. She is clothed with strength and splendor. She looks to the future cheerfully, and she opens her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue is guided by kindness. She oversees the activities of her household and never eats the bread of idleness. Her children come forward and bless her. Her husband praises her and says, many women have done superbly, but you, Sandra, you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a God-revering woman is much to be praised. Extol her for the fruit of her hand. Wherever people gather, her deeds speak her praise. When great trees fall. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder, and lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. And when great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly, our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. In the great Jewish compendium of ethics, Pirkei Avot, there are many maxims which are memorable and repeated time and again. One of them speaks to the character of Sandy Zuckerman. It says, any love that is dependent on something, when that thing perishes, the love perishes. But a love that is not dependent on something does not ever perish. When Sandy loved you, she loved you unconditionally. You belonged to her. She was in all the way. She wanted to be part of your life, to put you first, to worry about you, to send you gifts, to call you on the phone, to want to hear back from you. She was kind and caring and loving, and that's why it is all the more heart-wrenching to be here today and pay final tribute to her days here on earth. But in the words of her family, she was an angel here on earth. As we pay tribute to her today, let us be reminded that the presence of memory shall never perish in the hearts of those who always strive to remember her. Sandy was born in 1937 to Leona and Meyer Mazer in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home in Cleveland Heights. Lloyd, one of Sandy's siblings, later on Sandy was blessed with a bonus brother, Ken. Lloyd remembers how protective Sandy was of her little brother, often treating him to Saturday afternoon at the movies. And after graduating from Heights High, she enrolled at Ohio University for speech and hearing before leaving early on to help her dad with the family business. Not long after, Sandy met Jean when she came over to his house to meet with his sister, who was a friend. When Jean peered out, he met Sandy for the first time and said to himself, "I'd like to date that girl," noting her smile and her friendliness. Later, when Jean called, Sandy thought it was his brother, but he made sure to clear that up quickly, and the two began to see each other on a regular basis. Their first date was a movie, Around the World in 80 Days. In less than a year, they were engaged when Jean grabbed her hand and assuredly placed a ring on the finger. They married in December of 1958 and enjoyed 63 years of marriage. 63 years. It was an incredible love story. And that's not the rabbi's hyperbole. That's what his children said. An incredible love story and an example of what a marriage could be, what it could look like. Jean and Sandy each finding in the other the perfect partner. In those 63 years, they traveled abroad and within the country. They made lifelong friendships, attended concerts and dinners. And their greatest achievement was bringing Fern and Lisa into this world. They were raised by two loving parents who wanted to give them the world. Even when Jean and Sandy went away to travel on their own, Sandy always thought to bring back some gift for them as a memento. At home, dinner was on the table each night with one delicious meal after another. Brisket, farfel, lemon chicken, kugel, chopped liver. I'm getting hungry. Choo-choo wheels. I think that was particular for, was that for Lisa? Or that was for Fern. Not to forget the delectable desserts, strudel, cookies, and of course, the incomparable mandelbread, which is mentioned in the obituary itself. And despite the wonderful food, Lisa was picky and remembers her mom making her sit with her at the table until she put enough food in her mouth to merit getting up. Sandy would teasingly assert to Lisa that she hoped someday Lisa would have a picky child herself, so she would know what it's like. And guess what? That did happen. Indeed, despite her reserved demeanor Sandy had a wicked sense of humor, and even, dare I say, a sailor's mouth when the grandkids were not within earshot. They've only heard those stories. She may have slipped once or twice. The kids remember family trips, memorably the station wagon drive to Florida to see Disney World just after it opened. Later on, after the girls had married, Sandy welcomed Rich and Mark into the family as if they were her own. Rich would find himself calling Jean and Sandy Mom and Dad, blending beautifully into this crazy Jewish family. And Mark will admit himself that he wasn't always easy as a son-in-law. I'm not making that up, right? I think it's exactly your words. But Mark, all the more so, being loved by Sandy brought you a great joy. Even in the midst of the pandemic, Mark and Lisa would take Jean and Sandy out to dinner, sometimes to the Rowley Inn. And it was joyful to see Sandy smile in gratitude, to just spend some time with the family. This is a family that just loves being with each other. Ken's wife, Sherry, became another beloved member of Sandy's extended family. Sherry remembers going shopping with Sandy and how long it took to find just the right gift for someone. For someone she was shopping for. It could be anyone, because she wanted it to be absolutely perfect. It was this thoughtfulness that drew everyone closer to Sandy. And predictably, Sherry and Ken's kids were embraced as if they were her own grandkids, to Randy and Jody and Brian, and then their own children. There seemed to be always enough room and more capacity that Sandy could build to love more and more. Aunt Sandra was precious. Randy shared these words on Facebook. For my whole life, my Aunt Sandra was the heart and soul of our extended family. She went to high school with my dad, and years after his father died and her mother passed away, their parents married each other. Step was never a thing in our family. She was just Aunt Sandra, and her two daughters were my older cousins, my heroes, Fern and Lisa. Her kids, siblings, grandkids, and even us nieces and nephews were the most important thing in the world to her, and she made you feel like it. If there was an Olympic medal for showing up, she'd have gotten gold. She never missed anything, a recital, a soccer game, no matter how much I sucked. A visit to a sick friend. Randy continues, a truly gentle soul and an empath of the highest order. Soft-spoken and kind, but so quick to laugh, especially at herself. My kids had already come to see her, as I always did. They'd been making her cards and pictures and videos for a month. I brought them to see her Wednesday afternoon, and we didn't know it would be her last day out of bed. But I thought we might be saying goodbye. She whispered in their ears, and they whispered back, and I didn't ask what they said to each other. She held my hand, and I told her how important she was to me. I guess that's as good a goodbye as you can hope for. I've been walking around with a lump in my throat for 3 days. What a beautiful, successful life. What a light to bring to the world. Fern and Lisa and Uncle Gene, I love you. Thanks for sharing her with me and so many others. Thank you, Randy. To Corey and Ariana, their Nani and Poppy were everything a grandchild could ask for. They attended every activity and sporting event in which they participated. Their pride was so palpable that you felt they were out there performing too. Like the time Corey nabbed an interception on the last play of his football career, Sandy really whooped it up after that play. And in respect to Nani, Corey said that we were the center of her world. And each lightheartedly believed that they were her favorite. This went on forever. They still believe, by the way, that each is the favorite. When they attended college, Corey and Ari each received packages of baked goods lovingly wrapped up in a coffee tin, like cookies or mandel bread, and quickly became the envy of their dorm mates. Post-college, when young adults predictably become self-focused, Corey and Ari called their nanny every day. And even when Ari moved to Chicago, she made sure to stay in touch. And when Ari would come back home, she would secretly place pictures of herself in pockets of clothing, for example, as a reminder to Sandy that not only was she loved, but she was the favorite, especially when she was going through chemo and needed that extra dose of strength. Connecting to friends and family, staying in touch, and her encompassing concern for others was evidenced by the countless cards and gifts she handpicked, and even the way she remained tethered to the telephone. She rarely let the phone go unanswered. Something even when she was in the shower, she would sprint from the shower while the phone was ringing because she didn't want to miss a call. In the beginning, it was worry over her parents' welfare, but often a routine call from friends or family would be answered with, "Is everything okay?" Or if she did in fact miss a call, she'd return it by saying, I saw that you called. Is everything okay? Yes, Sandy was a worrywart, but she was also inextricably tied to the people in her world. It's what gave her life. And we are grieving today because we mourn the person who was our caretaker, the one who thought of everyone else. Thankfully, Sandy was also our teacher, your teacher. We have learned from Sandy how to love and care for the most precious people in our lives, to not take them for granted, for a love that is not dependent on something shall never, ever perish. Jean, your love for Sandy, second to none. Every time we'd run into each other at the JCC, and hopefully there'll be many more times, you'd fill me in, and when I asked about her, your eyes would glisten. You loved talking about her. You loved being married to her. You loved being her person. And your life has been dedicated to her in many ways. And that has been observed by your own children, who see in you what it means to be a dedicated husband, a dedicated father. You are truly a role model to all. We hold you tight. We hold you close, Jean. We know this next chapter is not going to be easy, but you have a very large village to hold you up. May Sandy's memory be an enduring blessing. And we say together, Amen. We pause for just a moment of quiet prayer. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream to be and oh to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. I invite you, as you are able, to rise now for Elmaleh Rachamim, the memorial prayer. El male rachamim, shochein bamromim, hamsei menucha nechona, tachat kanfei hashchina, b'malot kedoshim utorim, kezoar rakia mazirim, et nishmat Sara Yaspi Bat Mayer Veliona Shalcha Leolama Began Eden Tehei Menuchata Ana Balarachamim Hastireha Beseter Kenafecha Leolamim Utror Bitror Achayim Et Nishmata Adonai Unachalata V'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava v'nomar Amen. El Malei Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Sandra Zuckerman, who has gone to her eternal home. And merciful one, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. As we turn to the conclusion of our service, we'd like to once again send condolences to the entire family, Jean and Fern and Rich, Lisa and Mark, Corey and Grace, Ariana and Blake, Lloyd and Noreen, Ken and Sherry, and all of the nieces and nephews who mourn her passing. We now move to the graveside service at Mount Olive Cemetery. The family will not be receiving friends today, but publicly they will be receiving friends tomorrow. From 4 to 7:30 on January, I want to make sure I have this right, 19th? Okay, I want to make sure because the obituary says 18th. Though. Friends will be gathering tomorrow on Wednesday, January 19th from 4 to 7:30 at the Village Clubhouse, 26,000 Village Place in Beechwood. The family requires everyone who's visiting, please wear masks. Family also invites you, if you wish to make a contribution, you can do so to the Hospice of the Western Reserve. Thank you. If you approach them first.